Lisa is here, and welcome to this very special part of my channel where together with experts we discuss everything related to innovations, breakthroughs, co-creation, collaboration, how to manage the processes in collaboration projects, how to increase the chances of making a breakthrough, how to foster innovation, and more. In this video, I'm talking to Rob Kirschbaum, and I do believe that he's such a well-known person in the chemistry community that he doesn't really need an introduction, but I'm gonna give it anyway. Rob graduated from Delft University of Technology with a degree in chemical engineering. He spent more than 35 years at DSM, where he held various roles and contributed to numerous successful companies' projects. But he will tell about them later himself. During his last 6 years at DSM, Rob served as Vice President Open Innovation, where he integrated the company's outside in and inside out activities. This included scouting for new technologies, finding new partners, finding partners for licensing for DSM's intellectual property, and more. He also represented the company at large international organizations. In 2010, Rob received the prestigious Julia Nada Award for his contribution to DSM's innovative portfolio of products and technologies. Since 2015, Rob has been focused on his own SakuragiConsult company, where he offers support to improve scouting, research and development, and innovation processes. He is also independent advisor to the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund and member of boards in a number of companies. Rob loves spending time with his wife, children and grandchildren, and he is passionate about sailing, traveling and tennis. I met Rob when I was working at I Know Who, where he serves as chairman of the board, and he has always been a role model for me because of his energy and passion for innovation and contributing to our society. In this interview, we're talking about open innovation, of course, and Rob shares his insights about how open innovation works at DSM, what are the benefits of the open innovation approach, which metrics you can use to evaluate your company's open innovation approach, how DSM works with universities, and many other topics and questions related to open innovation. I enjoyed this interview so much, and I do hope that you will do too. Hello Rob. It's so nice to see you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with me.
It's an honor, and if it helps your business, I gladly do so.
Thank you, Rob. So today we will be talking a lot about open innovation, as you have spent quite some time working in this area. But before we start and before we cover this topic, I would actually like to ask you about your background, about your experience, where you started, how you started.
Okay, that I will compress it, because it was 37 years with one company, but the company changed their strategy and logo 3 times. So that was one of the reasons to stay with the company. It was always a challenge. There was also always change. Innovation was crucial to those changes. So it brought enough challenges for me to stay with the company. Hey, I'm a chemical engineer by training from Delft. I started at the Central Research Laboratory of DSM. At that time, still government owned, and became the manager of a pilot plant for polyvinyl chloride. But quickly I met a real inventor, almost crazy guy. And he convinced me that his invention needed an engineer, because he didn't want to pull the project at all. He wanted to do more inventions and science. Finally, by the way, this guy became a good professor, and I followed his advice and got connected to a fiber project. Super strong fiber, finally became the strongest fiber of the world, stronger than the famous Kevlar from DuPont. But I have to say that only because of a joint approach with a Japanese company, DSM was able to make a success out of that. Without them, without the fiber knowledge, and the Dutch company AXO, or Enka Fibers, who did not want to cooperate because they had their own Dutch version of Kevlar. So we would not have been successful. So thanks to the Japanese, it became very successful. Later, I got involved in high tech films, trying to compete with Gore-Tex, a high tech product, and became a manager of a research department. Get into the new business development, became project leader of several projects, and at a certain moment they gave me a new project which was nylon 46, a dream of a top guy of the company that would change the world. But unfortunately, I had to give him the message that this would not change the world. It would be an interesting project, but they had chosen the wrong product market combination. So I had to do a strategic reorientation. From that phase of my career, I have white hair because if you have to start all over again with a new product market combination and you already have 125 people on your payroll, cash flows like water, but in the wrong direction.
Yeah, yeah.
But we made it, and it became a success. So I'm proud, and it was interesting. And not my success, but a group of people, of course, hardworking. It was really a fighting machine in the large and not so agile company DSM. When I finally was able to make money with that project, with that business, they gave me a new job and I became the new business development director, which basically was a corporate business unit, which was a catching net for all kind of weird projects where some high-brass people believed in the future of this project, but nobody of the business wanted to say, okay, yeah, I will pay. So I had to have serious selections there, and prioritizing is the name of the game. I got involved into spinning out activities where I saw the value, but not for the company itself, but for other companies. And I started to get into investing in venture capital funds on behalf of DSM and learning the spinning in and spinning out, and then proposed with other people together to set up a venturing arm of DSM, which is still there doing well. So again, that's great. We did the pioneering work and made the mistakes which amateurs always have to make because you learn much more from mistakes than from successes. And this finally, with other projects, together with that, with starting emerging business areas, gave me the title Vice President Open Innovation. And that also was my role when I decided to take my pension, but stay connected to the company as a right hand of the CTO. And after that, a whole portfolio of activities developed, which can be found back on my website, which has to be updated again because 3 more companies have been now on the list but are not on the website yet. But yeah, it keeps me busy and keeps me happy, gives me energy. And more I select projects where I have the idea that I can realize impact. Because if I really critically look around in the world and I have children and grandchildren, then I'm not so happy with what I see of the future of the world, independent of politics. I mean, sustainability is absolutely key, and global warming is bringing lots of problems, not so much for us in the Western world, but particularly in the underdeveloped world, it brings huge problems. So, if I can contribute with my energy and experience and sometimes intelligence, not always, then I think I'm on the right track. So that's still a long introduction, but I think should be enough.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob. You definitely have an exciting career with so many projects. So it's really interesting. But I want to talk to you more about open innovation and this part of your life that you dedicated to open innovation. And first of all, I'd like to mention that you were teaching Professor Henry Chesborough, who is the
Correct.
father of open innovation, right?
Godfather, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I want to hear your opinion. Why do you believe that open innovation is so important? What are the main benefits for the companies to be involved in open innovation?
Let's say one form of open innovation is working together with another company. And in the fiber project with the Japanese companies, we saw that it was so important that it was you're successful or not. But then if you add more companies, you get access to more brains. And the more brains which help to solve a major challenge, the bigger the chance that you will find the solution to the problem. And interestingly enough, I'm helping a Thai company which has acquired several big companies, and they have now an open innovation institute in Thailand. And I was invited, you have to start there
Yeah.
and gradually understand that if you legally can prevent disasters, it can be very helpful, mutually helpful, to work together with your competitor. But you have to make good legal agreements. And if you think that through in a strategic way, that's also open innovation. And it's proven that you get to the success, the solution of the problem, quicker and for less money. And if you don't get there, you learn about people you have been working with, and there will be another opportunity in the future either to work with them or to hire them because you have built trust. And trust is the basis of open innovation. When you were successful in building that, there's always a positive outcome.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it doesn't matter with how many experts I'm talking about collaboration, they all mention that trust is extremely important.
Another advantage, because I know you want to really have data, the better, the more, the better. I think an open innovation culture attracts the most enthusiastic people from the universities, because in a university you're not in a bubble, and they are afraid when they join a big company that they are going to be focused on something, and they've just studied and everything was possible and all kind of options in life. So if you make propaganda on an open innovation culture of a big company, you can hire the best people. A lot of things have happened with DSM, and now it is just a nutrition company together with a Swiss company. But I can tell you that the people which we hired for the materials part of DSM all have great positions in other companies. So we have been selecting the best. And I think the open innovation attitude and culture has helped a lot in selecting the best. Okay, enough. Enough propaganda for open innovation.
I mean, it's never enough, I believe, but okay, we will continue talking, and I'm pretty sure there will be more benefits that you will highlight. But let's talk a bit about the model of open innovation at DSM. How was it there?
Okay, in a little bit I explained in my extended career story that we learned just by spinning out and spinning in and venturing. And then projects were more and more set up with peer companies, which had a good fit, strategic fit, the same end target. And you must be, particularly with Asian companies, you must be 110% sure that you agree on the final outcome where what you want to achieve. But let me add to it that this open innovation attitude which we were able to build also brought DSM employees, younger employees, which were kind of rigid in their way of thinking. It brought them out of their bubble, because you have to realize that if you are a part of a corporate research institute, this is a bubble. You're picking up the local culture. And if the local culture is the boss is always right, and he says, thou shall not travel outside the country because there's more than enough knowledge in the Netherlands, yeah, then you will not travel, right? So
Yeah.
getting out of that bubble, I think, is very, very important. And the best way to describe it, but then I make a jump back to beginning of my career and when I took the pension. When I entered the research laboratory, I went through a gate and had to show my passport. And my new manager said, "This here, Central Laboratory, is going to be your world." When I retired, the world was my laboratory.
Yeah, I love this expression. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the lessons that you learned while you were working on this open innovation model at DSM, because you mentioned the understanding what will be the final outcome. You mentioned the legal agreements, but are there any other lessons? What is important when you're building this open innovation model?
That everybody understands the system, and not in a memo of 5 pages, because five is already four too much. And this is why, at a certain moment, DSM was willing to let me talk about open innovation in the course of Henry Chesborough. And we developed the open innovation funnel model, which is just a one pager. And you can talk about the one pager, but the people don't have to read, they just have to listen and get the imagination of the open innovation selection funnel for ideas, from bright idea to market success. And that worked well. Of course, you can dig in deeper, and a lesson which we learned is that in the stage gate selection process, again, try to prevent that you are a mini bubble. Invite people from outside, first other businesses, just people who are interested in new things and want to contribute to it with bringing ideas. Not money, nothing like that, but just holding a mirror for what is happening in the funnel. But then also don't be afraid to ask outside people from other companies. They sign an NDA and give them a seat in a selection team when you go from phase one to phase two or phase three. And in the whole open innovation funnel selection process, DSM had 6 phases. So be sure that you have the outside in brains available. Not always so easy, because then the CFO said, "Yeah, but this person gets really into the key of this potential future big project. And are we sure that he's not going to run away to his own company and start over again?" Well, okay, without risk, you will never be rich.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. But I like that you mentioned that you sometimes need to bring people from the outside to this selection process, because otherwise like you can be really like focused on these kind of small things and you can narrow down your vision.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got the message.
Yeah, but it's very difficult with people because like we all are very selfish, and it's often very difficult for us to accept these ideas and solutions coming from the outside. And if we are talking about like a big company, there are lots of different experts working in the lab, working in on management positions. But how do you persuade them that you need this open innovation and that you need to accept these ideas coming from the outside?
Never give up preaching. That's one thing, of course. But also the questions which you ask, try to make those into numbers. If we say we have screened now so many ideas, and in the literature you can find data that from 3,000 ideas, like the very, very first idea, I think maybe this, to a market success, is from 3,000 to one. So you better add some more brains to speed up that process from 3,000 to 1, and maybe start later than the first minute, and search for ideas which are already in the 300 phase. And I think that DSM did a good job, and I'm sure that you are interested in examples where we applied open innovation in a good way. Examples which, yeah, can be found back in the market today. For me, and I think I told you this before, is The biomedical materials unit of DSM is the best example of applying open innovation. All elements are there. Scouting, new business scouting, licensing in, venturing, spinning in, acquiring, which is even not spinning in, it's buying yourself a market position. All these elements were done, and it's a very, very profitable unit. It's still materials, it's called biomedical materials, and DSM divested all its materials. Have a look at the DSM website. What's there? Still biomedical materials. It's a pearl. They don't sell that.
Yeah.
And that is a very good example. But I would say the feed product called Bovar, which is really developed together with science, with feed institutes, and with other companies, and of course with the market, with the farmers. A feed material which lowers the methane burping from the cow, which is a major contributor to global warming. And yes, we like meat, but on durability, meat is not the best food. So if we at least can lower the CO2 and the CH4, the methane output of the cow, yeah, then we are on the right track. And that's a good commercial project. But okay, it took more than 10 years to become really commercial. And I think that the super strong fiber is also an example of open innovation, because at a certain moment, the company DSM decided we have to have access to the feedstock, the polymer itself. And we did not have that. So you go outside, you try to learn, you license in, you decide the catalyst supplier, you're going to try to make that very special polymer yourself. Then you have a pilot plant which works. You twist and tweak and build co-monomers, and from that you build special fiber grades, and from that you make the strongest fiber of the world. So without that, and in a DSM bubble, not going outside, this would never have been successful. I have another example, definitely an example where open innovation was crucial. The second generation of bioethanol, where DSM had the knowledge about the yeast which might work to put the straws and the leaves of the maize, the corn, into ethanol. But then a lot of work had to be done with institutes for special yeasts for better fermentation, and a partner had to be selected, and then a factory had to be built, and $250 million was invested by DSM. But it's not a success financially. It's a success of open innovation. But because of the lower price of fossil fuel these days, which is a game which DSM could not influence. It's a game of the Shells and the BASF and the Exxon Mobiles, and even much more by Saudi Aramco. They lowered the price again, but at $150 per barrel, this second generation bioethanol from waste was a success. But with the current $80 per barrel, it's not a success. But don't blame the innovation, because they were perfect. And the plant has runs, but it doesn't make big money.
Yeah, well, it's not always that you control everything in this world, so
Yeah.
you cannot control many things. So, but you also, at the very beginning, you mentioned numbers. So, what are the main success metrics for the open innovation model? How can you know that everything is going the way it should go? Or how do you know something is wrong and you need to make changes in your open innovation model?
Yeah, that's a tough question. But if you take the picture of the open innovation, this semi-permeable funnel with the arrows going in and going out, just count what goes in and what goes out, and see whether there is activity. Yeah, that's not based on result, it's just activity. But then, of course, at the output, calculate how much comes out and calculate what it contributes to the total EBITDA of the company. And I learned that if, let's say, if the overall EBITDA is constant, but you have been delivering new business, then the financial people forgot that you will lose business always automatically. And apparently, the innovation activities have compensated what they have lost. Don't blame the innovation crew that the business people at a certain moment will lose old products and business from old products. That's also something to show the numbers. Which products went out of production? Then you see a balance of things which stop and things which come new. And in the funnel, always, of course, you should have the balance with things you have stopped and what you learned from it and things which went through. Then there is something like innovation culture, and open innovation is one of the 9 items to judge the innovation power of a company. And a company like Arthur D. Little had made that into numbers and not only words. And I think they did a good job. So the rejuvenation of your portfolio of products is a number. You can make a number on that. How many entrepreneurs did the personnel department really indicate? How many courses for entrepreneurship? And how many people went to a course for entrepreneurship? And again, numbers which are important. Then, cultural wise, can you show to the outside world that you have been protecting radical innovation platforms? And how many do you have? And what's the score of these radical innovation platforms, which have the highest risk because you go into new technology and in a market which you maybe know a little bit or sometimes totally you don't know it? What is your balance between innovation activities close to the core, where open innovation is in most cases not so easy to apply because there you are afraid to give away something. But you know, if there are so many question marks, you're willing to share something of your knowledge with a partner if you know that he is going to do that as well. What I'm trying to say is that the balancing act between high risk entrepreneurial risk, preventing to take risk, but in a running business, that balancing act, there's also another word for it, ambiguity. You should realize that, and both the managers which run a €1 billion business unit and the new business development managers which are knocking on the door of their first potential customer, both should understand that that is a balancing act. In the list of Arthur D. Little and the score which is given, there's also the cultural change. When did you start? Where are you? And do you realize this is a long-term activity? Cultural change might be a generation activity. And this is why we talk about Generation Z and Generation D. And so that's more than 10 years, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Did I answer your question a little bit?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I have another question about numbers, but I don't know, like honestly, I don't know if you have these data, if these data even exist. But do you know any like data on success rates of open innovation projects in general? Does anyone like have this data at all, or it's hard to predict?
Um, I don't have numbers for different companies, but they're both Henk Chesbro and maybe also Wim van Haverbeken. I don't know whether you ever have met him. He wrote a book together with Henk Chesbro on open innovation, and that was the book which got the open innovation picture funnel as a cover.
Hmm.
Wim van Haverbeke, a very friendly guy who might might be able to give an answer on that. What I can say is that in the chemical industry, where chemical leaders come together, like in the CEFIC in Brussels, DSM was always named as the example of the company which applied open innovation. Number two, I would say, was Evonik, and after that, a long time silence, and then maybe one or two Belgian companies, Solvay. But again, real numbers I cannot give. I can only say DSM reinvented itself 3 times and created a lot of money on the stock exchange market. So apparently they did a reasonable or good job. Thing which is also very important with open innovation to become successful is you have to be sure that the direction for open innovation is given from the top down, so that you have support from the board of the company. And in DSM, it was even not only the CEO, but also colleagues who were really in favor of this open innovation concept, which has helped me after fighting to convince them. But then it helped me. And finally, a really chief innovation officer, head of the innovation center, which covered materials, which covered life science, which covered venturing, which covered licensing, which covered open innovation and innovational excellence. He became a board member. So tell me, which company has a CIO in the board? Yeah, that was something. Open innovation always opens more options for you. And in a risky environment, you better have more options. It's like if you're shooting with one arrow and you miss the target, it's bye bye, it's over. But if you have a bunch of arrows and you are allowed to shoot several times, the chance is much, much higher that you will hit the red spot.
Yeah.
And open innovation will keep you juggling different options in parallel. What DSM did well and was not easy to get accepted is that the whole stage gate process was digitalized, which meant that if there was a stage gate meeting for the decision, go or no go, more budget or stop, you were invited for a meeting, but that went automatically because in a certain earlier phase you indicated you need so many months for the next decision, and this is the milestone, and then the computer will very disciplinary send you an invitation for the meeting. And in the beginning that was not accepted so well by the researchers, but I think if you don't overdo it in the beginning, you can be more flexible. But at the end of the funnel, this is really good. And the DSM Business Academy developed that, and you were obligated to follow that course. And even the CEO had to go. So that's what I also mean with top-down support.
So that, yeah, everyone is involved in the process,
Yeah.
but it goes from the top. Yeah.
Now and then back to the numbers because you wanted that so bad. Yeah. Number of corporate venturing investments per year, number of joint ventures and joint venture contract, number of joint development agreements, um, number of patents, number of patents together with university. So that may help.
Thank you so much for sharing this as well. I think it's very important. Do you think that any company should embrace open innovation, or there are certain organizations for which maybe it's not the best idea to go with this approach?
I think that companies which are in the last phase of their life and have not taken the decision to change, like DSM did 3 times, then open innovation is more like pearls for the swines, because they will not have the energy and the time and the attitude to go for something new. Then, if companies have decided to divest completely, yeah, then you have to polish up your balance sheet and get the most of money from someone else who has synergistic advantages and is interested to buy your company. But at that phase, don't go for open innovation. No, that doesn't work. But companies like steel industries, which are so old, they should go in open innovation because they are polluters and we allow them and legally said, okay, yeah, that's for steel. Yeah, that's the result. We have all kind of small particles in the air, and it's proven that there's more cancer if you are living around a steel works, and the amount of CO2 is huge. But okay, there's innovation and there are opportunities, and there's green hydrogen, and you can make green steel. But you have to invest and have to understand that your payback time will not be 1 year and not be 2 year, but should be 10 year. And if it's 10 year and you save the world with it, you better do it. And you will notice that I get enthusiastic again because I see that coming. And the companies I work with, I see that there's still miracles possible with technology.
That's true. And that's why I do really believe that we should talk more about this and more about open innovation and how it can help to innovate and to make breakthroughs. But quite often, when you talk to some R&D managers, some industry experts, they do mention that they do not really work with academia. They do not want to work with universities, but universities are an important part of open innovation and they are important partners, right? But often you hear that the projects done by university researchers, they are not scalable. However, I believe that DSM works with a number of universities, right? So how do you make it happen?
Okay, yeah. There are different ways of working with universities because around the university, in most cases, you have a technology licensing office as well. But what DSM does is point one, finance PhDs on subjects which come close to the business of the company and tell the HR department that there is someone working based on DSM money, and if he does a good job, you should hire him or at least offer him a position. But then also DSM has allowed the senior scientists. DSM had a dual ladder system. In fact, three three axes, one for projects, uh, one for human resource, and one for science. They allowed senior scientists to become a part-time professor, which gives an even better view on the performance of students and postdocs and PhDs. So the link between the part-time professor and the HR department should be very good. And then the third is that the licensing group of DSM should know the best technology licensing offices of the world because that's where they can buy technology which are needed in a certain process and can speed up the the project and the time to market enormously. Those are the three things I thought about.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that it will be helpful for other managers out there to make their decision to work with academia, to work with universities. But when you're looking for the partner, whether it's an academia or the company, how do you make this decision? How do you choose a partner to work with?
Okay. The the strategic intent should be the same at both parties, and they should reinforce each other. You should have the trust and otherwise build the trust for first before you sign agreements. Then, in a partnership, very important that you have clear deals about intellectual property. And every company will have background IP. Together, you probably will develop foreground IP, and there's something in between those. And background, you will probably never license out, and your partner should know what you develop together. Foreground should be joint property, maybe filed by one of the two, but then with a royalty free running and a lump sum free license to the other party. And in between, you have to say, well, we will discuss it in the future in good faith. But today we cannot decide. But the real background IP, you will never get it. And the foreground, this whole handling IP in the right way, I learned a lot also as from the moment that I worked with the company I know who,
Yeah.
because there the American technology licensing offices, they're so stubborn that they say, what's in the technology licensing offices is everything which comes out of the university. It can never go from a university to a company. No, 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 no. It goes to the technology licensing office and we decide. That's a handicap for them, I think. But IP is important. Also for open innovation. Don't make it a half A4 pager and we'll arrange it later. No, you have to have a good document on that. That is a key for success.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And when we were talking with Christoph, one of the interviews, Christoph Albert, you should know him,
Yeah,
Rob. Yeah, so he also mentioned it that it's very important to cover the IP questions before you sign the agreement.
yeah, yeah. I fully agree. But then, if you start together, and you should more or less agree that the way you are calculating the profit from future successful activities is the same, and there are different ways you can steer on payout time, you can steer on net present value. But then, very important in net present value is what kind of discount factor are you using. Are you living in Japan with 0% interest rate? Then the money which you make 10 years from now has the same value as today. But are you living in America or in Argentina, where the money devaluates that quickly that anything you gain in 10 years from now is probably not even worth to use as toilet paper. So it's very important that you agree on those standards, that you're using the same discount factor. And DSM developed a way of net present value calculation, but then including uncertainties. So you don't come with one single net present value number based on a discount factor and 10 years, and in the 11th years we take the turnover as the final value which we put into the bucket for NPV. No, you come with a curve where there is an average, of course, but you have a risk included net present value calculation. And with that, you can determine the factors which have the biggest negative or positive effect on your average net present value. Upward potential is great, everybody happy. We don't have to look too much at that. But at the negative side, the biggest contributor to lowering your net present value, you better look at it whether you can mitigate that risk. And if you can mitigate that, your average NPV will shift up a little bit again. At least you know what to watch in the process of the development. I think it's a very powerful tool. In fact, you produce a tornado graph where at the top you have the maximum negative and positive contributors to the net present value, and at the bottom you have the minor changes where you should not worry about. And sometimes people have long discussions, but when they see the tornado graph, they say, oh, but it doesn't move the needle. So let's stop discussion and only talk about the big one. I'm a fan of that way of calculating the feasibility of new activities. And in my consultancy business, in many times the people say, "Whoa, I've not seen that. Is that very complex?" No, it's a computer program and a meeting, and people say to each other, I think this is minus 30%, not more than minus 30%, but could be plus 10%. And then you agree and you put it in a computer and you get the curve.
That's great, and that makes everything really easy.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but as we are talking about money, venturing is a big part of open innovation. It's a lot about like investing money, but what instruments exist to financially support open innovation investments? Because we were talking about it when we were talking about this interview and how
Yeah.
to get ready. So
Yeah, let's start with venture capital funds. They ask money from maybe you and me, but they don't get it, but from big family funds and companies. And they say, give me your money, and in 7 to 11 years' time, you will get it back, but you will get more. We promise, but not legally, but in generally, if we look at the past, we have done a good job in the past. Our management team is good in selecting those innovations which will be successful. So you will get at least your money back, but in most cases, you get more. That's a venture capital fund. Making money with somebody else's money. Then there are corporate venture capital funds. There, and I've been preaching this to the board of DSM, if you would get your money back in 10 years from now and you could get strategic results and you could educate people and they learn about the outside world and startup businesses and financing rounds A, B, C, and you also get strategic results, an option to buy a company, and that becomes then a part of DSM. Would you be happy? And the CFO said, no, if I go in venturing, I want to have more money back than I start. And then the CEO said, no, I think if you have a good strategic result, I'm happy when I just get my money back. In what kind of other activity of the company can I put money and get it back after 10 years? With research, it's gone. So that's corporate. But then there are also big funds, and I happen to support one big fund, which is either a regional fund for a province that with government money but focused on the province, they try to score strategic results in the province, which in most cases is translated into jobs in that province. Or you can have a bigger picture like Europe. And I support a venture fund, which is the European Circular Bioeconomy Fund. It's a 300 million fund where basically the first 100 million was supplied by the European Investment Bank based on the question from the European Commission, can you help us with, let's say, making startup companies in Europe more successful in the phase where most companies fail, and they call that the valley of death. That the product is okay, the first customers are there, but financially, of course, the scale at which they operate is too small, so they need big time money to go to a big scale plant, and then hopefully don't make a mistake in the upscaling from the technology. And then the bank said, okay, yeah, we give it a try, but not alone. We'll open the fund for companies who are also interested into Europe and which are into circular and are interested into bioeconomy. And after the first 100 million from the European Investment Bank, the fund became over-inscribed, 300 million in total. Yeah, there I try to advise, and there also the balancing act between strategic result and financial result is continuously there. The good news is that when this fund is not very successful and they produce less money than 300 million, the bank accepted that they get paid back as the last party. So the companies which joined after the first 100 million They will get their money back, but then the bank has to accept a loss. This is even a little bit further than corporate venturing, that there is an accepted potential loss on the European level. Does it answer your question?
Yes, definitely. And so, like, basically, this European institution, this European like fund, it really helps like these kind of startups, like smaller companies, to scale up, right? Because this
Yeah.
gives a chance. Because I think it's really important. Like nowadays, it's quite difficult for a small company, especially if we're talking about like a science-based startup, the manufacturing company, to scale. It's like you need an enormous amount of money.
Yeah.
But that's great that such an initiative exists. And as we started talking about startups and venturing investments, I was working on my presentation for the Materials Week conference, and it was dedicated to advanced materials. And I found this report from the European Commission mentioning that the European Union is responsible for only like 18% of startups, if we're talking about the global scale. And these startups get only 6.3% of investment. This is very little money. Like if we're talking about the US, they have like more than 50% of startups, and these 50% get 50% of investment. So that's a big challenge. And it's not only for advanced materials. It is connected to like probably all the areas. But how can the situation with funding for European startups can be improved? How can we make sure that they get a chance to get this money here, so that they don't need to go to the US, they don't need to go to Middle East, to other countries to get this investment? And how can open innovation concept help here?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm, I must say, I'm already glad that there is this European Circular Bioeconomy Fund, and that there will be coming a second one as well. So maybe Europe understands a little bit late how the American system works, but they should also look at Israel, because there we know it's the startup nation. They arrange the money one way or another, always. I would like to have the answer to your very good question, but at this moment I don't have it. Europe tries with subsidizing projects, the big Horizon 2020 and things which came afterwards, but I cannot call them yet successful, because there is a bureaucracy around this financial system, and the control on the projects. I've been in several of those Horizon 2020 projects, and even when there was a success, but not everybody was ready for further scaling up. The enthusiasm quickly went down, and I've been sending emails. Hey, who is picking up this result now? Because we were successful. Yeah, but yeah, the next partner for scaling up has a financial problem, not a good year, so they have scaled down on further investing. And well, you yourself know that even companies like BASF at a certain moment, they drop all kind of supports to the outside activities when their annual results are not as expected or promised. So we have to improve, and America is the better example. Canada is a good example as well, by the way, and we have to be glad that at least we have regional funds. And in some parts of Holland, like in Brabant around Eindhoven, it's strong. And in the Netherlands, Invest NL is about 2 years ago set up, which is also at least 1 billion available. But your data are correct, and we still have to learn, have to improve.
Yeah,
It is the TRL 5 to 7 step, TRL technology readiness
yeah,
level.
yeah.
That's where the largest amount of money is necessary, and that's where let's say, European startup companies have a little handicap. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope that it will improve. The situation will improve in the future, and we will move faster with investments, with funding opportunities for the startups. But I also have one question. It's a very tricky one, but I'm just curious. It's just my personal curiosity about. I see a lot of projects that are funded by the government money, by the European Union, and the European
Yeah.
Union, they really invest a lot, especially in these science-based startups. But it's not like a concern, but it's more of a question. Don't you think there is a kind of imbalance between what the government invests and what maybe corporate or private investors should invest? So we see lots of government money coming in, but what about other sources?
Okay, and let me go back to America, where it's easier to understand. The differences between rich and poor in America are, and their numbers are a factor of at least 10 and probably 50 more than in Europe average, which means that you have very rich families and they are investors as well. And they work next to venture capital funds, and their size can be as large or larger than venture capital funds. And we don't have those. Almost, we don't have those in Europe. And I know only two in Holland. So that should and could be another source, and it also explains that America does a better job. Another reason that America does a better job is that you can say a lot of government money goes into science, but did you calculate how much grants, NSIF grants, and government money in the United States is given to universities, and up to TRL 4, all these grants? So they do a good job there, and it's not so bureaucratic.
Yeah.
It's not so bureaucratic, and maybe they already have better selection media. Because I think in America, an NSIF grant is not given because of creating jobs in a region. It's because it looks good for money wise. Yeah, let's say European grants are sometimes given for other reasons than just making money.
Yeah, well, it's good. I mean, it should be like that. It's not all about money at the end of the day.
It is, and that's why in the comparison between America and Europe, I think you should take all sources into account, and the sources which you may not have characterized are the NSIF grants and the big family monies. Because I mean, take the founders of Apple and of Windows, and they have billions of family money, and they play a big role. The BEV, I think, is another example. It's an energy venture.
Yeah, well, maybe we don't have a lot of money here, and Europe is not like full with money, but I'm pretty sure that we have like other advantages at the end.
Yeah, creativity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and in some areas, science,
Yeah, definitely.
but not all, for sure. And let's be careful, because what's happening in Singapore, what's happening in China, um, the, let's say the educational system is so, yeah, tough to the young people, that also the amount of people who decide to make an end at their life is the highest, but it leads to well educated people. And sometimes, if I look at not so much universities, but at high schools, that people get the end result with two fingers in the nose. So it's not really a big challenge for them. So education is another item which is important, and the spirit, let's say, of Protestant people is let's save money for later, and if it's safe somewhere, then we're happy. While the people in Israel and definitely Americans, they have other ideas about living on the edge and let's take risk. I want to be really rich, not just a little bit rich.
Yeah.
But it leads to higher extremes, larger extremes.
Yeah, so I guess we just need to kind of navigate through all of this and kind of learn, take the best what we can take from others and kind of adapt it to the European mentality and the European peculiarities that we have here. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I don't want to like end this discussion on a on a bit of a sad note. So I want to talk about the future because the future, I do believe that future is having a lot for us. But what do you think about the future of chemistry, of the future of open innovation, how it's going to develop?
I think the future of open innovation is positive because there are still so many companies which have not even tried the real open innovation, and I think more companies still have to to learn it. And in the beginning, maybe a little bit pain to get it adjusted, but the future is positive for open innovation. And Henry Chesbrough is keeping on writing books, and he gives talks still everywhere, and that's clearly positive. But the contribution from chemistry to solving problems of the world, I'm positive about that. And that's also where I, as a person, try to contribute. Um, of course, together with others and creating impact. Um, let's take a science which is not officially a science, but it's a direction in between materials and life science. It's biomimicry. If we are willing to learn from nature, who in a very slow pace has found out a lot and organized everything in a very good way. Yeah, if we're willing to learn, then we can solve problems which probably by nature have been solved in the past already. So there I see an option of a combination of life science and hard chemistry and catalyst. But what is recently coming up again, but this was a hot topic in late 1800, is electrochemistry. Because if you can steer electrons through material, yeah, it can catalyze all kind of processes. And the definition of a catalyst is that it's not consumed, and electrons, if you just use them to do chemistry, only a part is consumed, but it can go much quicker. And the simplest example is just use electricity to make hydrogen. But you have to have renewable electricity, of course, and it has to be cheap, or the price of hydrogen should be high enough. And if we punish all the people which are producing CO2, then we get a lot of money, which can help to make cheaper electricity and renewable hydrogen. So it's another one. Problems in transportation can be solved with renewable fuel or synthetic air fuel, where now, when the airline companies see the big cloud hanging there of being punished per kilogram CO2, and they're already asking you and me, do you want to pay extra for it's it's €6 on a trip to Copenhagen, €6, and then I've compensated my CO2. Is that really a lot? I don't think so. And if everybody in the plane does it, then there's money to produce synthetic air fuel. So there are things coming up in the society which, of course, need support and need wise political decisions and need energetic technology managers. But that I see as good. The big scale chemistry, like cat cracking and all the following monomer production, polymer production, will probably move east. And we should not dream that we should stay another 20 years in that business. But I'm talking long term. And I think people like the board of BASF also understands that and goes to an area either closer to the feedstock or with a guarantee to lower cost feedstock. And in that case, Saudi Aramco is, of course, in a very good position because they are building whole complexes on top of the oil. And then they will stay in the oil. And they will have to accept that there will be fines on CO2. But I talk to these people for technologies to take CO2 and make methanol or ethylene or propylene out of it. And they are interested, and they're not a little bit interested, they're seriously interested. So they will stay on fossil fuel as their core business, but they're not bad people. They will use the money they earn and and compensate for what they contribute to global warming. Maybe the pace at which they do that should be quicker, but I'm not a politician.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think I have like the last question to you. With all your energy and with all your experience, what are your plans for the future?
As long as I can have the fun by working with people who respect me and are honest and have the same enthusiasm and give me the feeling that together we can have and can create impact instead of nitty gritty improvements, I will continue. I will continue because I like it. And yeah, it gives me satisfaction. And I have the luxury that I can combine it with free time, which means enjoying the fact that I have grandchildren, which means that I can have sailing, which is one of my more than hobbies, passions, um, and can travel with my wife. The luxury I have, but the energy comes from working with people which I like and working on challenges which are intellectual challenges for me. So that's me.
Thank you so much, Rob. You know, like I always tell you that you are an inspiration personally for me, and I'm sure for many other people. And thank you so much for such an amazing interview. Again, for your passion and for your energy and for everything that you're doing for this world. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that we learned a lot from you today during this interview. Thank you.
I hope so. And thank you for the sometimes very good and difficult to answer questions. But I did my best.
Yes, definitely. I'm sure that the information that you shared it's extremely useful for everyone. Thank you so much, Rob, and I wish you a great day and hopefully see you soon.
Hopefully, see you soon, Lisa. Bye bye. Bye bye.